All right. So good morning, everyone. This is Tanya, your host, and we have Bragg with us for this episode of Ag Talks by Agrierp. And today we'll be talking about some trends around regenerative agriculture, regenerative farming, and then experience Mr. Bragg has within this industry and space so far. Bragg, why don't you start off with introducing yourself and telling us about what you have been doing so far in your journey in farming?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, my name, I go by Clyde or Jeffrey, but Jeff is what I go
Pardon
by.
me.
Clyde is my first name, and I dedicate that to my grandfather and to my father, who also were Clydes. And so on my profile, I leave Clyde on there because of the honor to a long time of farming. So
Hmm.
I'll go by Jeff Bragg, and my company is Superfood Consulting, and I am looking to work and help the regenerative space as much as I can to help soils and consumers.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction. I'm going to be calling you Jeff for the interview.
Okay, yes.
If that suits you as well. Sounds good.
Yeah, I love my reverent my reference to my people my mentors.
Awesome. Okay, so Jeff, as a chief nurturer, I saw on your LinkedIn at Superfood Consulting, you emphasize the connection between soil health and gut health. So, for our listeners who might be new to this concept, can you break down what this means and why it's so crucial in today's food landscape?
Yes, I think a lot of it is that had to do with our landscape of how we started into soils a long time ago, and we were very diverse and had a lot more things going on and being tended by a lot more people. But now it's becoming more larger, and we have to, with our burgeoning population, to be able to get food to everybody. And so then the soils and waters and things, as population increases, the things change over time. I was a soil scientist. I really wasn't going to go back to farming, and I tried to get away from agriculture because did so much hand labor when I was young. And so I ended up going back to agriculture, and began as a consulting agronomist and started taking soil samples. And I think some of the things that I saw was the change in the soils over time and I was in the potato industry. So I was taking soil samples, thousands of them every year in soils throughout Idaho at that time. And it was just watching the soils change over time there, and maybe rotational things coming up that because of marketing, our rotations were affected. And I see that in a lot of our agriculture. So, in the race to get things quality for the buyers, I think there was a change in our soil health. But at the same time, these people now realize we have to change that soil health back. I was always taking soil tests from 0 to 12 inches and 12 to 24 inches. And that's how I was trained to find the root zone and everything else in soils. And the thing about it is that that was great, and I went through that, but we never really were spoken to about much of what I would call biology or soil biology. And so then we never were taught that biome. So I went through a lot of my career and never knew it. And then as I progressed through my own living in agriculture, I found it myself here 40 some years later after I started that I was affected by things that were going on within the soil. So everything and so relating back to soil health and gut health, first thing I call it soil to belly, because that soil and what you apply to it affects what the consumer is going to ingest. And their health, the whole world's health, everybody's health is determined by what is ingested into their gut biome. And then when you have that word biome that was so new now into our regenerative agriculture, you realize that biome, the soil had a biome, and it was 6 to 8 inches deep. And all of a sudden, that's where the potatoes are always growing too in my lifestyle. So soil to a belly.
Right. Right. And just for our audience, what do you exactly mean by superfood when you name this company? Is it like some term, some sort of a concept? What is
It,
it about?
Superfood is my concept on the things that I excuse me, I'm a potato specialist. And so
Right.
potatoes are my number one thing, and I've been around them so long that I'm from Idaho. So, and it just potatoes are a superfood, and it actually became a staple that's actually been something that's fed the entire world. And the potato itself, and especially the different varietals that are known today, can affect health more than about any other food in the world. So at a
Definitely.
time, and plus it's can be grown at just about every elevation and climate.
So it's like a category of those crops which are like very easy to grow and very like consumer friendly. Everybody uses it just next to staple food.
It's a staple food, and I believe it's a staple in every country in the world.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know of any country that doesn't really eat potatoes, and I think the more we learn about them, we're even finding more new things out. We always were told that the birthplace was in Peru, and that now they found one growing in the mountains of the Four Corners where I live, and they call it the Four Corners potato. And so it was
Mm.
growing in the mountains, and people were ingesting them centuries ago.
Wow. I mean, yeah, who doesn't love potatoes?
Yes.
So correct. Okay.
And
So
I-
yeah,
I'll,
go
I'll,
on.
I'll just finish for just one thing on superfood. So what I'm looking for is the attributes in vegetables and flours, bread or whatever that we eat.
Mhm.
It's actually going to make a superfood going into the stomach. And
Mhm.
but it's got to not damage the soil first.
Yeah, well, it all starts from the soil. And then coming to the next question, Jeff, regenerative agriculture has in fact gained a lot of attention. And from your perspective, what are the most significant economic and environmental benefits that farmers can get from these practices? And
Uh,
also, on the other hand, what are the biggest hurdles that they can face and they do face in this space?
It's for a long time, it was probably more of a social thing that we've been taught certain things and interacted with so many people in agriculture. And as it got more concentrated, as companies became there became fewer companies to supply the needs for farmers. I think it changed in that respect somewhat. And so at first, when regeneration came around, I think the farmers kind of maybe fought it. It was probably one of my first things that I did too. I've actually switched from here being a consulting agronomist and widely known, and then I'm a regenerative organic farmer and product developer and developing my own system. And when you see the two things, I had to change. And so those farmers have a fear of change. And I think it's just because of the being tied to the land and then the financial restraints that farmers face.
Right. And also just to the first part of the question, that what are some of the benefits of these practices?
With the benefits, I can't even begin to tell you. If I was to tell you the benefits of regeneration from when I started, really, I always had an environmental embodiment of our farm. Even when I was a quote unquote conventional farmer, my wife and I were the EPA Stewardship Award winners in 1999 for the potato industry. And so we were very proud, and we used things in that time at that time, and that was quite something and whatnot. So we went on in our life. Both of her and I are both career potato people. as we went on, and then you get into organics, you realize that I see more life and more life within the, like the potato crop that I'm working with, and more life within the soils. And then actually I see a way less insect population that I used to worry about. And I see that the potatoes actually themselves have naturally resistance against things that I would never have thought of. So that's what I've seen in regeneration. And so I think that's going to work its way into wheat and rice and malt barley and corn and everything else. When I see a lot of movement right now where people have hit that roadblock where their yields are going down at the same time, you know, their prices aren't going any higher. So I think regeneration actually brings together things, and I've seen an increase in our soil health.
And that perfectly brings me to the next question, where we, basically, in the past year or so, you have also observed that the global supply chains are all disrupted, and the geopolitical events in the climate change. So, from a food security standpoint, and also the fluctuation in the energy prices, we saw that the input prices of synthetic fertilizer that were, majorly imported in USA. So, has the economic argument for regenerative agriculture, which aims to reduce the dependency on these inputs, become stronger? And how do you discuss this with the farmers you consult with in your company?
Well, you laid it out there for me to say that I grew up in a place where we had rotational agriculture. And I was really blessed with having a father that really understood that. But our whole community and everything was that way too at the time. And it was when we farmed and we were using synthetic compounds. And I'm consulting. When I went back to farming after starting of thousands of acres of consulting, I went back to farming, and I farmed with my dad and my family and my wife. And every time that we would rotate it, the first thing I'd do is take a soil sample, know what's in the soil, and then that gave me that basis so I could understand how regeneration would work too. So this back in the 90s, I take you back there because this is where I really have an emotion about this too, where my start was everybody used conventional grain drill where they would they wouldn't they'd run over the field 3 or 4 times before they planted grain, and then the soil would crust from the weight of the machinery and things. I went to a no-till drill that was absolutely astounding, and that helped. That was my first soil health issue, and it really helped. And then we started looking into certain pea crops. You know, peas will release 40 to 80 units of, having a cover crop. I looked at the organic matter that I was putting in, whether it was corn and everything else, and we just knew what to rotate to maintain for nematodes or anything else. And I think that's where we got to get back to, is where we're looking at each field that we've got as a source of changing the biology, especially in that biome. Because with the weight of our equipment and everything else, we've got to find a way of keeping our soil health in the midst of growing crops.
Yeah, perfectly put. And Jeff, you since you have been a farmer as well, so and you have been collecting soil samples ever since. So, uh, how did you manage those samples, and was it like paper based? Because I'm coming towards the part of the interview where we discuss the technology part. So, how did you used to do that? What was the process? Take me through that, and then we can, divert our question from there.
That's a great question, because it actually happened when I married my wife and when my dad was signing my marriage license. And he was signing my marriage license, and he looked over at me and then told me, "Son, now that you're getting married, you need a job." And I just hired a soil scientist to take care of my potato crop. He says, "You'd be great at it." Then he signed my marriage license, and somehow I ended up being an intern for a soils company the next year. So they were one of the first soils labs in the Western United States. And so I worked for them, and so I had a paper copy, but I learned not only soil science, but I also learned irrigation and drainage, and I scheduled irrigations for farmers, and then I scheduled all of their inputs, synthetic inputs. And so, yeah, I got a good glimpse of it as I went into it, and it was all paper. But on the irrigation scheduling side, I've had a cell phone since 1981
Oh my God.
because you had to relay that information from the lab after you've taken that sample, and I would send the sample either by bus. The first few years was by bus, and then it was because it went the same day, and then finally we got it perfected to where we could get it in time. But yeah, it
And
was
and and like from sending those samples back to the farm from a bus, uh, how does that process look like today?
today. Today it needs to be right here.
Yeah.
You know,
Is it though?
what's that?
Is it though?
It's getting there.
It's
Uh,
getting it.
some parts of the irrigation is, irrigation, but if like taking soil samples and things like that, I don't think that that's where it needs to be yet. I think we need to see how the biology and everything's working. And I think there's a lot we can do with software and that.
And Jeff, so the question is, of course, that so at Agrierp, we focus on integrated farm management. And in the context of regenerative agriculture, how can an ERP system, if are you aware of the concept though of ERP system, what it does?
Uh, Let me know. I know a little bit, but let me
It
know.
basically manages the entire business operations. It basically has multiple modules. It has manages your finances, it manages your inventory, manages your work orders, every operation that's going on. So it's a centralized platform where you can run everything from. So that's basically what an ERP does. And also, of course, your data management. You have multiple data silos. You have data for soil management, for supply chain, for your finances, your accounting. So it basically consolidates all of that, and it gives you one consolidated view where you can see what how your business is doing, right?
I would much prefer that instead of having to look up each one of them separately. Because
Definitely.
I looked through the profile, and what I saw was a very good, it basically started with an enterprise budget of the entire farm to begin with, and then had an I like that. And so you've added more of a perspective of ERP to me.
Yeah, and that's what we actually are doing with Agrierp. We have tailored that solution. It's mapped on all the farm processes, and from the plantation to irrigation to harvesting, everything is like within that system. And also it integrates with the mobile application as well. So your labor workers, they can relay that information in real time to your farm management who is in the office. So, it's all an integrated ecosystem. So, coming back to you though, when you consult with farms, how do you see them using technology to manage their operations? And what are the biggest gaps or opportunities you see that the technology can make a significant impact in?
Well, what you just said would have made a huge impact in my life because you talked about even the employee relations and things like that. I
Definitely.
mean, I was at a time growing up where I was actually one of those people that actually helped immigration laws, and so I
Mhm.
worked on committees to help immigration. And so now to have a technology to where you can actually get real information and hook even that part into it, that makes complete sense. I work and now with a lot of components, and what you were talking about, different components,
Mhm.
the organic industry needs that more than about anything because they have to answer 20 times more questions than you can even imagine. And so both conventional and organic would be like we need this.
What sort of questions are you referring to, Jeff?
Well, like it can be how many your labor is part of your economic budget and everything else. And then in today's world, with immigration being the focus of our policies, it appears, then we need more. We need more of that to help the immigrants, to help up the entire population.
And it also makes a lot of sense though, because also from the standpoint of the profitability of the farm, because you see there is rising input costs, the labor laws are getting stricter. You have to comply with a lot of these state departments. So you need all of that information to be documented, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes a lot of more sense to have such a system in place.
Well, for me, soil to belly, that's exactly what the system needs, because you're looking at the soil report, the costing of the soil report, and then it goes into your own operation. The enterprise budget being the number one thing you have to do before you even check the soil is you have to know whether your enterprise budget's going to show everything correctly. And you're right, there's a lot more labor laws and everything else. And I think having the access to that and everything in one tool would be over the top.
Yeah, true that. And with regard to that, one more aspect to that, do you, if just trying to get your opinion on that, uh, do you think that consumers also are now being very much aware of where their food is coming from, and that is a factor which has risen the need for stronger traceability of how your food is grown, what inputs were applied by the farm that's growing them, and all of that details, right? So is that some sort of a demand that is also coming from, or you have felt coming from the consumer end?
The consumer end, in my view now, is especially after 2020 COVID, is highly aware that their bodies need to have resistance to things. And so I believe human health is and their food supply is connected widely right now. I know for me, it's soil to belly is probably the thing that actually saved my life. And I actually think we need to go a step further and actually have the technology to be able to analyze the food that we produced to see what those to give an idea before it goes to the consumer. And so, and not that we should stop the supply chain anytime soon, but we should also check what's in that food as far as nutrition, plus what's going through the soils and remaining in the soils and going into the food. We've lost our rotational agriculture to the point where our soils need to regenerate and get rid of some of the compounds that have been applied. And I think I'd be honest with you, I see a movement of consumers wanting regenerative agriculture.
Right. I think, Jeff, it's been a very, very interesting conversation. And before we close, I would really like you to provide some closing remarks or whatever you think is, going to be the future of regenerative agriculture. And how do you see technology being, working side by side? We have seen AI coming into the market now, helping farmers take real-time decisions, providing real-time insights, and all of that stuff is going on. So how do you see technology and also regenerative agriculture moving forward in the next few years? How do you see it playing out? And also how you are going to be helping from Superfood platform.
I believe that number one, from what technology with our knowledge now and our increased knowledge of how we can have programs that help us. I can remember when I first started with Word or PowerPoint, they really helped me. So now, and the other one that really helped me was Excel, and so you could keep track of
It's still
yourself.
going on, helping millions already still.
Yeah, and so I do enterprise budgets, and that's the first thing I do. But you've taken it one step further. I think that we need technology at every level. The AI side, I still think we need to get out in the fields and see the soil and things like that. But I know that there's ways that can help by maybe like for me, having a drone to fly over these beautiful crops and see how show our consumers. So I saw everything in technology. We need a technology that takes care of soil reports for us, takes us through personnel, takes us through the budget, takes us through the marketing side of what we're doing, takes us all the way to what we're selling into the consumer and how they feel after they eat our food. And I think that's it in a nutshell. I'm not going to stop selling food as a superfood, because here we are in a population we're still eating and moving forward. But I just look forward to a time where regenerative agriculture is embraced by 100%, and we also embrace the consumers 100%. I would like to see the farmer be on TV just much like the professional athlete or the singer or the rock star. And so
That might be. It's a much difficult job though, yeah, and it totally deserves all the attention. Um, So yeah, I think Jeff, it's been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you what you have been doing throughout your career and for the community. And also, I think I love if you want to explore more about Agrierp, I can share some resources. And if you think, because obviously you are consulting with farms, you know people in the industry. If you find someone who needs our help, we'll be more than happy to work with you.
well, I can tell you right now that it just so happens that we're going to need your help, because it appears that growing farmers is the thing. So,
Yeah.
and so
Happy to
I would
help.
like that.
Yeah, we are all about giving back to the community, and it's been a wonderful journey so far. We have multiple clients within the California Central Valley, and I think Idaho as well. We have one major customer over there. So
I used to work
they
in,
also grow potatoes.
I went from Idaho and then NAFTA, ended up in Stockton, California, where I worked I ran a asparagus and potato packing house in Stockton, California. And then I went back to school 2 years